And I think we're live. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. This is Dennis. I'm a developer advocate with Amazon Web Services. And today I have two guests on the show, Mark and Richard, who are from the Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus team. Hey, Mark. Hi, Richard. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Hey,
Mark.
Dennis. Hey, good morning. So my name is Mark Shaney. I'm the product manager for this new service. I've been at AWS for the last 2.5 years, where I've had the pleasure to work at CloudWatch before this very interesting journey around building a new service. So looking forward to telling you more about it.
Great. Great to have you here. Richard, how about you?
Hi, I'm a principal software development engineer at AWS. My name is Richard Henton. I've been a software developer for about 25 years now. The last 10 or 11 years focused on distributed systems, the last few years at Amazon. I'm really excited to talk about AMP today, Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus. And I've worked, one of the particular reasons I've also been, besides a software engineer, a site reliability engineer or SRE. So I have a lot of empathy for the target users.
25 years. He must have started coding when he was 5 years old.
Oh, yeah, something like that. Yeah, we're dating ourselves. It's about 25 years of professional career for me as well. Anyway, so we're going to talk about Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus. It got announced by Werner Vogels yesterday. Congratulations. I mean, it's great to get a service out. It's a lot of work, I assume. What is it? I mean, many people probably have heard about Prometheus. Some have actually worked with it, but having this as part of AWS, what is it? What actually are you releasing today?
Yeah, great question, Dennis. I mean, everybody that's worked with containers, primarily starting with Kubernetes, I think is probably familiar with Prometheus as it's an popular open source monitoring and alerting solution. It's really optimized for containers. It's been very active in the open source community. So I mean, we have the open community to thank for that. It's really known for its flexible query language to monitor containers across both on AWS and on-premises environment. Ultimately, right, other than its ability to collect data from 150 plus exporter data sources such as JMX, Redis, Nginx, really what we're bringing as part of this new fully managed service is really the ability to, one, secure the environment in AWS, right? So using security services such as IAM integrated services, using roles, using IAM roles for service account, which was introduced by EKS about a year ago. And then also, giving you full access control to your what we call a Prometheus workspace, which is probably new to some of your Prometheus users out there, which is just an isolation of the resources such as metrics and access control to these resources. So we added this additional security, right? Security is our top priority here at AWS. And then from an undifferentiated heavy lifting perspective, we're looking at automatically scaling the ingestion, the storage, and the querying capability. So you don't have to worry about maintaining and operating that.
So that means basically, I as a customer, I don't really have to manage the servers, have to manage cluster, make sure that everything's in place. If I have a peak, for instance, if I have click streams that I'm putting in there, and if I have a peak on my platform, is that something that AWS will take care of?
Yeah, when you have bursting containers that are coming up due to oncoming demand from your e-commerce application or whatever application you're running, we'll take care of ingesting those metrics. We'll automatically scale to see the workspace ingestion or querying capability that you need at the time that you need it. I think I just want to call out the one aspect of it. So everything is built on top of Cortex for the data plane. And maybe, Richard, can you tell us a little bit more about what Cortex is and why Cortex is so important for us?
Yeah, so Cortex is basically designed to be kind of a multi-tenant scalable Prometheus or Prometheus compatible system. So it provides long-term storage, it provides the multi-tenancy. We've built our, kind of the security layer we talked about on top of it, and it's meant to let you wrap it in that. It's kind of Prometheus inside out, so it's got a bunch of constituent microservices that would do the individual parts of like what would normally be a Prometheus server, and it lets us basically build the components to handle the scaling and the reliability for AWS customers for Prometheus compatible APIs and storage and PromQL.
Okay.
And as far as the background, it was started at Weaveworks, and then as a lot of the maintainers now work at Grafana Labs, who we've been partnered with.
PromQL, that is the Prometheus query language, right?
Yeah, very flexible and powerful query language that allows you to query things by many labels, key value pairs, right, such as region equal US East 1, app equal e-commerce or whatnot. So it really gives you that flexibility of not only alarming on data, but also querying, monitoring, and diagnosing problems that's performance problem, either infrastructure or application related issues in your environment.
What's a question maybe interesting for many of our customers? Does it only, can you only use resources or monitor resources from AWS, or can you use monitor data, ingest data from pretty much anywhere?
Yeah, so the great thing is again, there's 150 plus exporters out there. So there's, whether it be databases, whether it be web servers, proxies, Envoy, very popular project, right? So anything that you can either use the open source exporters to be able to do that, which is just an instrumentation how to do that. The others you can customize your own instrumentation. So there's several libraries in multiple languages, Java, .NET, Go, etc. And maybe it's a good opportunity to highlight, right? In terms of benefits, right? We have talked about security. We talked about the ability to scale on demand, resiliency, right? Multiple availability zones, and available in 5 regions today for preview. We're looking to support all commercial regions for our GA. But ultimately, right? So some of the aspects there is we want to be able to allow you to bring your own Prometheus service, run the compatibility, right? Making it easy for you to migrate data to our service. So you can use your own Prometheus server to do that and simply configure remote write to send the data over. Or maybe Richard can tell us a little bit more about what we're doing with AWS, with OpenTelemetry, which is another open source project.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, so OpenTelemetry is a very kind of observability focused open source project we have, and kind of distribution of this for AWS called AWS distribution of OpenTelemetry. I just call it ADOT. It's a little bit of a mouthful, obviously. But basically, it's kind of like a pre-configured setup that has some of the exporters already. And so OpenTelemetry was kind of a combination of Open Tracing and OpenMetrics, which were 2 earlier open source projects. And basically, its goal is to handle metrics, logs, and traces, and do that in a way where you can instrument, your application or workload once, and then kind of wire it up to different vendors or backends. And so ADOT is really like a setup of that already works with things like AMP. So it's easy to set up. And ADOT can collect, you can use it to collect Prometheus instrumented metrics with the usual Prometheus scrape methods, or you can use it also with things directly instrumented with OpenTelemetry. And we have an exporter that handles the SIG before auth mechanism so that it can write directly over the remote write Prometheus compatible API plus that to AMP. That's part of what our demo will be.
Speaking of which, do you have anything to show? Did you bring anything? Can we have a look at the Amazon managed service for Prometheus? It's a mouthful.
Just call it AMP. We're here to amp you up. So
yeah,
that's our job. All right. Yeah, I can give you a quick demo and show you how to get started with the existing compatible APIs. So it's a public access. You don't need to sign up for anything. It's available to all AWS accounts.
Yeah, I'll put the link up real quick.
Yeah, cool. So when you log into whatever regions, 5 regions again that I mentioned: US West 2, US East 1, 2, Europe and Ireland and Frankfurt. You'll land on the landing page here and get to learn a little bit more about the benefits. And you'll be able to just create a workspace. So you name it whatever you want. So we can do on-air demo, and create the workspace, and then ultimately it's simply just allowing the workspace to create, which will take a matter of seconds. Once it gets created, you'll see the status change to active, and you'll be able to help get started with some of these Prometheus compatible endpoints. So as I mentioned, right, either you use Prometheus server, existing Prometheus server that you have configured today. You can use this remote write URL to be able to configure it. The instructions are just simply there. This is examples for using Helm charts for Prometheus version 13. You just copy this, put that in the override file, and then you can simply apply the update to your Prometheus Helm charts, and then boom, you'll send all the metrics to AMP. So that's pretty straightforward there.
Yeah, good old YAML. We all love YAML, right?
Come on, it's not error prone. I always think it's a little bit easier and dynamic to include the role that you have in the regions and stuff like that. So that makes it a little bit easier for you to get started.
Mm.
And then from the query endpoint URL, so this is pretty straightforward with the Grafana. Recommend using Grafana 7.3 and higher. So if you didn't know, they introduced the ability to do SIG-V4 auth. Let me just show you that. If you add the data source inside the Prometheus data source, all same Prometheus data source, you don't have to install anything else. Just select the data source, and ultimately what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to enable SIG-V4. So it's a feature available in Grafana. Certainly look on our documentation for that. Enable SIG-V4, use the SDK. So right now I created this in US West 2. This is the workspace that I have. You can also provide your own credentials if you want, but I'm going to use IRSA here, IAM roles for service account. And look at the documentation for that as well if you want to set that up. So what it does is it authorizes my pod here to write to my process without having me manage credentials and everything else. It's great from a management standpoint. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to my workspace here, just copy this query URL, and I'm going to go to Prometheus and simply copy this URL here. So don't need the last part of the URL, and ultimately connect to the workspace. And if this all works, yeah, there you go. So you're all set. So I don't have any metrics right now on this workspace. I'd have to go and configure a Prometheus server, but it shows you how easy it is to do it with the Grafana. Grafana is an interactive visualization tool of choice for most of these DevOps engineers. Again, you have the APIs. You can query the data however you want with PromQL. You can get series, get labels, all that stuff. It's using the Cortex APIs for that. But most of the visualization is done with Grafana.
Speaking of Grafana, we also announced, Werner yesterday also announced the Amazon Managed Service for Grafana, and we will have the team on the show as well tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. We will have the Grafana product team, and also as a special guest, Torkel Odegaard, the original creator of Grafana and co-founder of Grafana Labs, will be here on the show, here on the stream tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Looking forward to see you there.
Yeah. So this is what this is, right? It's AVG. You don't have to do anything else. You just set it up. It supports SSO identity provider, your own identity provider, so Active Directory or anything else for your credentials. Once you're logged in, the nice thing about the data sources is you don't have to remember any URL. If I go back to the AMP workspaces, obviously we support other AWS services here. I won't steal the thunder from that team when they do the on-air session, but what you have here is I simply go and select my region, same thing. And here what it will do is it will discover all the regions. If I select the right one. And then I should be able to see all the workspace here. And it's not working. I might have changed my credentials. But anyways, so it will automatically show the workspaces, and you should be able to query those workspaces. So just one of the other things that I want to leave you with, and then I'll hand it over to Richard to show you how to set up the AWS distro for OpenTelemetry. But this is the Grafana changes that you need to do. So this is how to enable the feature. Simply update the configuration for Grafana INI auth SIG-V4, and then just simply use that same the query permissions that you're using, the role that you're using.
So it's totally integrated into IAM.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you don't have to manage credentials or anything. So how about we hand it back over to Richard to show us how to configure AWS distro for OpenTelemetry.
All right, thanks. So I'm going to jump into a terminal here. So this demo is basically going to be a sample application that's set up to instrument it with OpenTelemetry. It's in our public docs, like most of the steps we're going to do. So it's a sample application instrumented with OpenTelemetry. And we're going to set that up to talk to an existing AMP workspace I have. And basically, just because there's too much cut and paste if I have to put the workspace ID in all the setup files. So you can see this is the AWS CLI telling me about the workspace I have set up. Just to show you where things are going. This next part is to set up the basically the role-based access control integration with IAM, the URSA. So this sets up the IAM roles. This is a script you can get from our docs. So basically it sets up the roles to give permissions to the job we're going to install here in a moment to actually have permissions to send things. And you can see I've run this before. It's safe to run more than once. And then I'm going to run a similar script also from our public docs that sets up a role for the query. So you can use that with Grafana or AMG. All right, now we're going to actually install the sample app. All right.
So you really just need 2 roles. That's the ingestion role and the query role.
That's right. So one is for the remote write permissions, basically to send in metric samples. And it's actually the A collector I'll get to in a moment that actually calls remote write. And the query one is basically for Grafana or AMG to actually query the service.
Okay.
So this, here we go. Okay.
AMG, that's Amazon Managed Service for Grafana, right?
Yes. Thank you for
Yeah.
reminding me.
Trying to get used to all the new acronyms that we have. So it's AMP for Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus and AMG for Grafana.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yep. And now I'm going to set up the actual A collector. So this is basically a service that runs in my EKS cluster I'm using. So this talks to the applications instrumented with OpenTelemetry. It can also be configured to use service discovery and scrape and relabel configs that are the same way as a regular Prometheus server itself would. So this is going to talk to our sample app and forward its metrics onto the AMP workspace I have. Sure that's running. All right. So the next step is I'm going to run just a really simple query for this one of the metrics this sample application is exporting, which is a gauge. And I'm doing this with AWS curl, so it'll do the SIG for all, so I can talk to Stillfire. So that worked nice and happily. So maybe not the most visual demo, but
I'm sure everybody who's working with this recognizes what you do, and everybody who's not working with this is just like me, like, oh, okay, a lot of letters on a black screen. It looks like a terminal to me. I recognize that.
Yep. And we also can set up Prometheus as the agent as well. So I'm going to do that with Helm. And then it has this override file. Basically, tells it to use the ingest role we set up earlier. And also gives it the remote write settings for the particular Stillfire workspace to set the endpoint. Let's see if that's running. And you can see I have an actual open source Grafana 7.3 running in its namespace as well. And then let's make sure it looks happy. So if you get your endpoint a bit wrong, this tends to complain. You see it here, and you have your remote write settings not quite right, or your IAM roles not wired up right.
Okay, but what we're seeing here really is some log data.
Yeah, it's just showing that it's working happy. It's spewing errors because we had a misconfiguration.
Okay.
But the next part is the interesting part, which is Mark already showed the AMG version of Grafana. This is the open source version of Grafana I've got running in here. So we can actually go do the visual part, but that requires me sharing a different screen. So this will be the interesting part of the live demo.
Yeah. While you do that, what you just did basically was you set everything up. You started the you started basically Prometheus pods. You started a Grafana pod, and now wait. I'll pull it up on the screen. What do you have there?
Yeah, this is just the AMP documentation.
Yeah. Okay.
This is just to have a window ready. So I forwarded the port to the Grafana I'm running in my cluster. So I'm just going to hit that. We go into explore, or actually first I should show the data source. So just to make it interesting, this is the data source we have. I'll recreate it just to make things exciting. So basically Prometheus, you have to put in this. You can get this from this URL. You can get it from the describe workspace, AWS CLI command for AMP. We turn on SIG before off, just like Mark was talking about. You have to set a region. All right, that's working. Good. We're going to go to explore, and then it's basically, similar to the one we did. This is actually a counter, so it'll look weird if we don't do a rate. Mm-hmm. So this is just basically a counter from this sample app we started. You can see from around the time we started it today, straight up, it said it's a sample app, so that's pretty much all it does. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the end of my demo.
But that's, you need to know a lot of things. What is Helm? How does kubectl cuddle? I don't know. Do you call it kubectl or kube control? Everybody seems to be different.
I say kubectl, but a lot of people say kube control.
Yeah.
It's not subtle.
Yeah, of course, if you work with containers, you need to know your tools. But it looks like it's pretty simple to set this up, to get it up and running, to a point where you have actual data that you can then query, either using AMG or anything else, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
So I think the other thing I want to leave everybody out with so ultimately with pricing, I think it's important to talk about a little bit about pricing. The service is currently being priced for. Dimensions, right? Ingestion based on samples. So to give you an example, if you're collecting about 1,000 Prometheus metrics at about 60 seconds, scraping interval with about 80% of the samples being collected over the month, or you don't necessarily collect every metric from every pod 24/7, depending on the type of pods. You're looking at about $7 for the ingestion. The pricing page gives you all that information. Mm-hmm. There's two other dimensions, right? Ingestion. The second is storage. So storage is maybe I didn't mention, but all the storage is based on S3. It's actually all stored on S3 for resiliency and everything else, and so it gives us that long-term storage. So storage is 0.03 cents per gigabyte for the metadata and the samples being stored. Storage and then querying. So querying is based on the execution time on our side in terms of the execution of the query. The typical query response time is around 16, 18 milliseconds. It's a bit faster when it's cached queries. There's multiple layers of cache as part of Cortex that we take advantage of. So ultimately, those are two areas that to look at. We're not pricing today for the preview for storage and querying. Okay, we are charging for samples. Look for that in around March timeframe. We'll send an email reminder for people to tell them that we're going to turn that on. We can work with you guys to understand what the costs are for storage and querying. If you have any questions on pricing or anything else, if it's not clear on our website, please do reach out to us. We'd love to hear more about your comments or questions about that.
Yeah, and that's a great point. As you all know, we at Amazon, we at AWS specifically, we 90 to 95% of what we launch, of what we create, is because customers ask us for it. So if you have any feedback, especially with the new services that we have, we want to learn what you use it for, what you do with them. Reach out to the team, reach out to me, to your own solutions architect if you have one, so forth. So talk to us, let us know how you like it, let us know what we can do better and how we can improve the service. I think we're about to wrap it up. Yeah, I put the link down there again for aws.amazon.com/Prometheus, where you can get more information. And Mark, reInvent is almost over. It's been 3 weeks this year. It's crazy. It's been a crazy time. The whole year has been crazy. But anyway, I saw a few great launches. What about you, Mark? Was there anything that you were excited about, except, of course, your own service?
I've been pretty much heads down trying to focus on launching these services that Warner announced yesterday. I did get an opportunity to see the Warner keynote. Certainly impressed to see the gauges and everything in the sugar factory around the down meters and that single pane of glass back in the day that we're replacing. We're making it easier for customers to get access to all kinds of AWS data sources in Grafana, and obviously Prometheus being an important data sources for our customers for modern container environments. Mm-hmm. But yeah, those are the main things. I just watched the 2 keynotes. Looking forward to spending some time over the holidays to go through the other sessions.
Yeah, sounds good. What about you, Richard? Did you get some time to watch a session or a keynote?
I didn't get to watch too many, but I saw Warner's, and I was really excited to see the Legos.com part in there. I have something to get my kids excited about that was related to my work.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mark and Richard, for coming on the show. It was really great. Thank you, everyone here in AWS On Air. We have a number of other shows going on throughout the day, throughout the night as well. For my time, I'm in Europe. I will be online again tomorrow at noon my own time, which is probably early in the morning U.S. time. So we have a number of shows. One, as I said before, tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, we will have a few people from the AMG team, as we learned, the Amazon Managed Service for Grafana, where we will pick up from the other side, basically, from what we talked about today. All right, thank you. This was Dennis. I'm a developer advocate with Amazon Web Services. I had the Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus team on the show today, and have a nice day. Goodbye. Take care.
Everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.